It's crystal ball time. Which quarterback are the Raiders most likely to draft in the 2025 NFL Draft? Coming up here on the Raiders Report, I'm going to tell you who is the most likely that Pete Carroll and John Spytek decide to pick on draft night. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and today I am ranking which quarterbacks I believe the Las Vegas Raiders are most likely to pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, and I am ranking them from 10 all the way down to 1. 10 being the least likely, 1 being the most likely. The reason why I love being able to do this show and the reason why you should subscribe to the Raiders Report and value a lot of the quarterback rankings that we give out here, we were able to predict back in 2023 that the Raiders quarterback most likely that the Silver and Black were going to draft was Aidan O'Connell. I know a lot of people called me crazy, but when you looked at a lot of the tea leaves, when you looked at a lot of the rumors, you could see that Aidan O'Connell was going to be the top selection there for Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler. In 2024, we predicted that Gardner Minshew was going to be the starter, and yeah, it's kind of sucky because we were competing between AOC and Minshew, but I sat up here on this show before the NFL Draft, and I said Gardner Minshew and AOC are the two most likely, and you could see Michael Penix, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix also were in my top 5. I also predicted this offseason that the Raiders were going to add a quarterback before NFL free agency, which at the time had a lot of people calling us crazy because we all thought this was going to be a team that was going to draft the future of their quarterback. And if you look there a month ago, the Raiders are going to sign or trade for a quarterback before or during NFL free agency. So my point is this. We put in a lot of time. We put a lot of homework. We put a lot of effort in every video we put out here. And we also put out a lot of different types of content. But I love to be able to do these types of shows. And if you like these types of shows, I hope that you continuously pull up here to the Raiders Report. Let's go to number 10 here on our rankings list. And it's going to be Dillion Gabriel, quarterback from Oregon. I'm going to go through and I'm going to talk about each prospect of what I like, what I dislike about each guy. And then I'll ultimately tell you why I think that the pick could be them for the Raiders. He is older, smaller quarterback prospect. Does have tons of game experience, and if you're somebody that fell in love with Bo Nix last season, you're probably going to like Dillion Gabriel as well. I like this poise that he has in the pocket, definitely confident in himself. Overall, I think he's an average accuracy, does struggle throwing the ball down the field consistently, which doesn't really fit with Chip Kelly all that well. This was somebody that I knew the Raiders had on their radar back in November. I did a show based on a source that told me that the Raiders were eyeing both Shedeur and Dillion Gabriel. Now, that was with Tom Telesco at GM. Obviously, now the Raiders, they haven't met with him. They didn't really meet with him at all. In fact, he's the only quarterback on this entire list that the Raiders did not meet with. And if I would say the only way that really something happens where the Raiders end up taking him is if all the quarterbacks that the Raiders want somehow go off the board early. There's an early run, and then they're left with Dillion Gabriel. Let's go to number 9 here. It's going to be Cam Miller, quarterback from North Dakota State. And this video is based on if the Raiders draft one quarterback and one quarterback only. If they decide to go with Cam Miller, he does lack NFL size, but you could tell that he's a smart football player. I would say he'd be a good quarterback 2, good quarterback 3. I like his pocket awareness. Now, there's definitely a big learning curve that's going to happen from North Dakota State to going to the NFL. But my number one concern for him would be, yes, good footwork. He's going to struggle throwing the football down the field. He just doesn't have nearly the arm talent, doesn't have nearly the arsenal of pitches, if you will, to be able to throw on all 3-4 levels of an NFL football field. If the Raiders did end up going this route, it would be he did have a top 30 visit. Anytime you see top 30 visit with this organization, that means something. He is a winner, 2-time FCS national champion in 2001, 20, and 2024. The reason why I have him on this list, though, and why he's a little bit lower, the Raiders do have 4 late-round picks. But I honestly think Cam Miller could be somebody that's probably a UDFA, but the Raiders do have 3 picks in round 6, and they have that pick in round 7. Could be somebody to go in that realm. Let's go to number 8 here, Ethan Garbers from UCLA. Obviously, Cam Miller and Ethan Garbers wouldn't be any starting quarterback options, but if you told me the Raiders draft only one quarterback, Garbers could be a name to at least keep in mind. From UCLA, does have some Chip Kelly ties, which is why I'm breaking this all down. But in terms of what he brings to the table, not a lot's going to be there from an NFL perspective. The only reason why Garbers would be taken is because spent 3 years with Chip Kelly from 2021 to 2023. Also, Garbers credits Chip Kelly with a lot of his development. He's a good leader. This would be somebody that would compete with Carter Bradley, and you know Pete Carroll loves guys that are going to go out there and compete. I would say Ethan Garbers is probably more likely a UDFA than somebody that the Raiders draft. If they do end up drafting Garbers, I'm going to say it's going to be in the round 7 at pick 222. Now, let's get into some categories or some quarterbacks that I think are legitimately on the Raiders' radar and players that you guys would actually be excited about if they ended up taking them. At number 7, it's going to be Kyle McCord from Syracuse. He did play in a pro system, but super long windup. When the ball's like getting ready to come out of his hands, it is a little bit of a quicker release, but it's a really long windup. I love that he attacks the field at any level, and he is not afraid to make any throw. Sometimes I almost worry that McCord thinks he's like an elite Brett Favre. He does have that true gunslinger mentality, which can lead to some really bad decisions and some really bad turnovers. And, you know, it's going to come from time to time. If you do want to be able to sit back and have a QB learn for 2 to 3 years, I do think McCord kind of fits that bill, and there is some legit upside there. He did meet with the Raiders at the NFL Combine, did not have a top 30 visit. McCord played at Ohio State from 2021 to 2023, so there's not any overlap there with Chip Kelly. Tom, when I asked Tom, where do you think he could end up getting drafted? Tom told me a round 5 grade, which for the Raiders, you only have one pick in round 5. So that's why Kyle McCord's going to come in here at number 7. Let's go to number 6, Tyler Shough, quarterback from Louisville. And again, these are based on the most likely that the Raiders end up drafting them. He is a pocket passer with 7 years of college experience. He can make, I honestly will say, he can make almost any throw on the football field. Love his downfield throwing ability. Does struggle against pressure, isn't a good athlete at all. And when the play breaks down, he hits the panic button. Depending on who you talk to around Shough, there are some NFL teams, I'm telling you, that love this guy. And because they love this guy, he could be, this would be maybe a surprise to some, could be a first-round pick, late first-round pick. That would be a little bit shocking to me. But he is a player that I do think could go before pick 37, before the Raiders are on the clock. And if that happens, there's a 0% chance the Raiders are going to be interested. But because of that top 30 visit, because he does fit what Tom Brady kind of looks for in a quarterback from a decision-making process, just from an overall field commander, he does have a wide range of where he could be drafted, and for that reason, I ended up putting him as a higher probability than somebody like Kyle McCord, who has a chance to go a little bit later. So those are the top 6 quarterbacks, or those are the bottom 5 quarterbacks that the Raiders could draft. Now we're about to get into the top 5, and the top 5, I would say, is another big tier gap of legit names that Pete Carroll and John Spytek are going to keep on their radar to have learn behind Geno Smith. Before I get into those top 5 names, today's show sponsored by Game Time, the official ticketing sponsor of the Raiders Report and here at Chat Sports. I know I sound like I've been screaming my lungs out at some NBA playoff games, but if you're like me and you would love to be able to go watch maybe the Lakers, maybe the Dubs, maybe it's the Houston Rockets, I love using Game Time, and I think that you guys will too. I love using Game Time because of the last-minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and a whole lot more. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account, redeem code ChatSports. That's ChatSports for $20 off. Download Game Time today, and if you're wondering what time is it, it's always Game Time. Chugs and I have trusted Game Time for tickets where I've gotten tickets for my fiance, I've gotten tickets for my dad, I've gotten tickets for my fiance's dad. If you are somebody that wants to wait to the last minute, maybe you're a busy person because you don't want to buy a ticket because you don't know if you're going to be free on Saturday. You don't know if you're going to be free on Sunday. That's kind of how I am, and I'm always worried I'm going to miss something Raiders related. So I will wait until 2 hours, 3 hours before an event, and then that's when I'm going to go get my tickets. If you're traveling in a new city, I think actually one of the best apps that you can download is Game Time to just see what's going on in any city that you're planning on visiting. If you like to travel, if you like going to a sporting event, if you like to have a good time, shout out to Game Time. Promo code ChatSports, $20 off. Terms apply. All right, so here we go. Top 5. Jaxson Dart, quarterback for Ole Miss. And Dart does have a lot of fans around him, and there are very split emotions of how I feel about Dart. There are some tape I watch of him, and I'm like, dude, I freaking love this kid. And there's some other tape I watch of him, and I'm like, dude, this guy cannot be drafted in the first 2 rounds of the draft. The 3-year SEC starter who did improve each of his previous 3 years, which is something that I'm always a sucker for. If you're not coachable, you're not going to be good in the NFL. He is a good athlete, plays with a lot of confidence. I like that swagger. His footwork is lazy. His mechanics are bad. But when his mechanics and his footwork are on, he has one of the best and prettiest deep balls in this year's class. And when I first scouted Dart, I didn't think that he had a good deep ball at all. It's because some of the games I was watching, his footwork sucked. And I was like, this guy, I'm like, why do people love him? But when you see that he's on and he puts it together, if I was Chip Kelly, I would look at Jaxson Dart and go, I can make that guy look great all the flipping time. Now, why I think that the Raiders could end up drafting him, he did have a formal combine meeting with the Raiders and also, I believe, a top 30 visit. High school teammates with Jackson Powers Johnson, and because of that relationship, that does matter to the Raiders. He could go into the top 10, but I've heard he could slide all the way down to round 3. And because of that wide range of possibilities for the Raiders, Dart's not going to be somebody the Raiders look at 6. If he's available, though, at 37, that's where it's really going to get interesting. Let's go to number 4 here. I'm going to put Shedeur Sanders at 4, which might surprise a lot of people, but I'm just not somebody that believes that the Raiders are going to take Sanders at pick number 6. It, quite frankly, would shock me. He is a very accurate quarterback. He does have, though, very average arm talent. Mentally tough QB who showed yearly growth from Jackson State to Colorado the past 2 years, but there are some legit character concerns from a lot of NFL teams out there. I love how much confidence he plays with. I love the composure, and you can't argue that he hasn't dealt with a lot of pressure. I do think that sometimes some of these rookie quarterbacks struggle or young quarterbacks struggle in the NFL just from the amount of pressure. If there's one thing I know Shedeur is going to be able to handle, it's pressure. And when the limelight is on him, he has been able to answer that call. The reason why I could see the Raiders going this route is he had a combine interview and a top 30 visit with him. Tom Brady has been a mentor since 2020, and there's been a lot of connections to Shedeur and to the Raiders. Dillion Sanders also has said that he wants Shedeur to be a Raider. Dillion has also liked multiple of my Instagram posts, me saying that he wants Shedeur to be a Raider. The other thing that I think we got to sit back and look at, though, and wonder, if the Raiders end up passing on Shedeur at 6, a team that I would say probably has done more homework on Shedeur than any of the other 31 teams because of their connection to Tom Brady. If you think Tom Brady's smart at football, and if you think Tom Brady knows what he wants, and if you think that this organization, like Pete Carroll, John Spytek, Chip Kelly, guys that have done amazing work with quarterbacks, if they pass on Shedeur at 6, I think it's because that they are very confident in that decision. If they take him at 6, it's because they're also very confident in that decision. So let me know round 1, day 1. Round 2 and 3, day 2. Day 3 is round 4, 5, 6, and 7. Which day will the Raiders end up taking a quarterback? I have been saying now for, I would say, probably a solid month that I am a believer that the Las Vegas Raiders end up taking a quarterback on day 3, which is why the next 3 quarterbacks that you were going to see, I'm not saying all 3 of them are going to go on day 3, but I think if any of these next 3 quarterbacks end up being drafted by the Raiders, I think it's all going to happen on day 3. Let's go to number 3 here on my list. It's going to be Jalen Milroe. And, you know, I said everything that I just said about a day 3 quarterback, and then I'm talking about Jalen Milroe, a guy who's going to be at the NFL draft. There are some teams that might take Milroe in round 1. I don't see the Raiders being one of those teams. I would be shocked if that were to end up happening, but he is the best athlete at the quarterback position in 2025, and quite frankly, it's not close. His accuracy was bad. His decision-making this past season, it was bad, especially, you know, inside the pocket. Milroe, though, I do think was much better in 2023, and he was much better overall, especially as a deep ball passer. If you're going to be the athlete that Milroe is, you have to be able to throw a deep ball. I think it's actually one of the reasons why Jalen Hurts is as good as what he is. Yes, Hurts was not a good thrower of the football first coming out of college, got better and better and better, needed to fit in the right system, but because he can throw the ball down the field, teams have to respect it. It just creates so much more for Jalen Milroe's legs. I know for a fact that the Raiders were one of the teams that was very impressed by Milroe and all of his interviews. Love the mental approach, and that impresses a guy like Tom Brady, John Spytek. The Raiders also know that this fits kind of this 2 to 3 window that they have with Geno Smith, because Milroe is going to need to learn to develop for 2 to 3 years. You had a formal combine interview, you had a top 30 visit, and just last week, or maybe it's 2 weeks ago, this time is just passing me by this offseason. If the Raiders were one of the teams, and it was reported and it was confirmed that they were one of the teams interested in a Joe Milton is an athletic freak. If you're looking for an athletic freak to back up Geno Smith, I think Jalen Milroe fits that bill pretty damn well. Let's go to number 2 here, Will Howard, quarterback out of Ohio State. And I think probably a lot of people expected Howard when I did this show to be number 1. Because I had Howard a few weeks ago or a few months ago as my number 1 quarterback most likely that the Raiders would get with Chip Kelly. Now he's number 2. So he fell down, and the guy that came up to number 1, he climbed a long, long way. He does have really good NFL size. He improved over the past 3 seasons. He can create havoc inside and outside of the pocket, which is going to be really critical in Chip Kelly's offense, going to be really critical in this offense in general. My biggest knock on Howard is he needs players to get open before he throws the football. And that's just not going to happen in the NFL. Like, quite frankly, the offense that Will Howard played in this past season was one of the best offenses I've seen in college football. And if they would have had a different quarterback, I think they would have ran teams out of the building, kind of like what LSU did a few years with Joe Burrow, because he had talent, offense, offensive line, running backs, wide receivers. Hell, the best receiver on his team, he ain't even coming out this year. He's going to be coming out in 2027, who's also Geno Smith's cousin. But Will Howard is an outstanding prospect down the road. But I also kind of think Will Howard stinks. Anyway, why the Raiders could end up drafting him. Did have a combine meeting with Howard. Also had a top 30 visit. He did just win a national championship with Chip Kelly. Relationships matter to this organization. And Howard, to me, does need 2 to 3 years to be able to develop. And if he's able to develop and if he's able to show growth the way that he showed growth just in 1 year with Chip Kelly, I do wonder how much more growth he would be able to learn for 2 to 3 years, being able to learn from Tom Brady, John Spytek, Chip Kelly, and honestly, even Geno Smith. But that means the number 1 quarterback most likely that the Raiders end up drafting in the 2025 NFL Draft is Quinn Ewers. And if you would have asked me this question about a month, 2 months, hell, 3 months ago, I would have never said Quinn Ewers. But I am a big believer where there's smoke, there's fire. Y'all know that. And I'm telling y'all, there is so much attention right now around the Raiders and around Quinn. And you can't deny, he's got tons of arm talent, but his mechanics are, trash can. Tough player. He's willing to play through injuries, loves to go out there and compete, loves to be able to, help his team win in any way, fashion. Does get the ball out quickly. I love how quick of a release he has. And, that's one of the things that Tom Brady always, credited himself of. He was able to get the ball out quickly. Quinn Ewers also was able to get the ball out quickly. This is another quarterback prospect, though, for anybody that watches this show. I don't love Quinn Ewers. And if it was up to me, I've said I think Kyle McCord is a better quarterback prospect than Quinn Ewers on day 3. This would be a move that the only reason why I would buy into it is because I believe in Chip Kelly. I believe in John Spytek. I believe in Pete Carroll. I believe in this regime, and I believe if you let Ewers sit for 2 to 3 years, you can't deny that there's not some upside up there. However, he had a top 30 visit. He had a pro day visit. He had a combine meeting. He is the only quarterback on this list in the NFL draft that has had all 3 of those with the Las Vegas Raiders. Also, Texas head coach Steve Sarkisian worked underneath Pete Carroll at USC from 2001 to 03. In the year 2004, he was a member of the Oakland Raiders, which that shit matters to Mark Davis. Then he goes back to USC in 2005 to 08. Steve Sarkisian talks about Pete Carroll and Nick Saban being 2 of the people of why he is at where he is at. So you add all of the connections from top to bottom, from Mark Davis to somebody like Chip Kelly to somebody along the lines of Tom Brady to Pete Carroll. They are adding up over and over and over again. And because of that, and because Ewers fits that 2 to 3 year window with Geno Smith, I do really believe the quarterback most likely that the Raiders take is Quinn Ewers, because they're also looking to take a quarterback on day 3 of the NFL draft. And I believe Ewers is somewhere probably going to be going in that round 4, round 5 area. So one more time here, if you want to take a screenshot and if you want to send me a post on Instagram or Twitter, just make sure you tag me in it. That way I could share it as well. But I do think Quinn Ewers, Will Howard, they are the top 2 most likely candidates at the Raiders draft. And then I would put Jalen Milroe, Shedeur Sanders, Jaxson Dart in that next tier, followed by Tyler Shough, Kyle McCord, Ethan Garbers, Cam Miller, probably 2 more of just like UDFAs, and Dillion Gabriel I'm just throwing in this list just in case all these other guys are gone on day 3. I do want to say one more time, though, there is an honorable mention in here. It's Cam Ward. He did have a top 30 visit with the Raiders, and I felt, I'm like, if they had a top 30 visit with him, I at least got to mention him on the show. But he's going to be the number 1 overall pick to the Tennessee Titans. So for that reason, the Raiders aren't going to have a shot to go out and get them. If you enjoy the Raiders Report and you want to hang out with Jeremy Chuggs and I more this week, we are going to be doing a special mock draft show here on Thursday. The mock draft itself is going to start at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Chuggs and I are going to be live at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and it's going to be all the NFL channels here at Chat Sports, and we're doing a live draft, just like you would see on draft night. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a competition. We're also going to be live on Friday, but I really, really want you guys to pull up on Thursday and Friday because I'm somebody that believes in if you're not first, you're last, and I feel like I've done a hell of a job here at Chat Sports and being able to build a company and being able to build the Raiders Report. We got a lot of new employees that maybe haven't seen how crazy this show can get. And the fact that I got voted number 2 as the most entertaining to watch, I want to change that. And I want y'all to help me change that this Thursday, this Friday. What do you say? I'm actually number 3. Yeah, that's even worse then. I'll say I couldn't see the other one. Oh, it was Annie Bonaventure game. So it's one of our college basketball guys. 3rd. Come on, y'all. Pull up, hit that subscribe button. Turn on those notifications, and all I hope is this. If you are showing up on Thursday and Friday, if it does get wild and if it does get crazy, I want y'all to be able to participate at home because any day can be an Oakland tailgate. The Raiders Report's all about that. And if the Raiders end up taking any of the quarterbacks that we mentioned, they will take one. It will be crazy here on draft night. I hope that you end up pulling up. Last year, we went live for almost 21 hours, almost 300,000 people tune in. We're going to beat those numbers this year and hope that you guys are a part of the journey.